You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the Enterprise episode, A Night in Sickbay. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel are Father Jason Tyler. Hey, Father.
Hello.
And Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah, whatever.
So, Jimmy, before we talk about how we feel about this episode, can you just give us a recap of what happened in this episode?
This week, Jimmy and Father Tyler begin plotting their revenge on Dom for making them watch one of the absolute worst episodes in the Star Trek franchise. Sorry, I was looking at a to-do list for the future.
You read the part you weren't supposed to read.
Let's see. Star Trek summary. This week, Captain Archer is over the top, shouty, pouty, and angry because he and his dog Porthos offended an alien race. Porthos also got a pathogen on the alien planet, so Dr. Phlox and Archer spend the night in sickbay caring for him. And we witness countless ostensibly funny shenanigans, one of which is Dr. Phlox becoming obsessed completely out of the blue with the idea that Captain Archer is sexually attracted to his first officer. After having a highly sexualized dream about T'Pol that we have to see, Archer admits to Phlox that he was right. Eventually, Archer performs a bizarre, ostensibly funny apology ritual for the aliens. He and T'Pol have a coded conversation about their mutual attraction, which we will never hear about again in the series, and Phlox's treatments heal Porthos. The end.
So, you know how sometimes we anticipate a bad episode, then we watch it and we're like, oh, in retrospect, it wasn't as bad as I remember. This isn't one of those episodes. This is bad. Worse than I remember.
Yeah.
Father, why don't you give us your initial take on this one?
A pretty pointless episode, and it's not any better on the rewatch than when originally watching it, just as you said there. I normally appreciate the older format of 26 episodes per season as opposed to the current, 10 episodes that we're getting. But an episode like this makes me think, okay, yeah, we were probably making too many episodes back in the day, and something like this should have been cut.
Yeah. Jimmy?
It's not a good episode. It is, it has okay moments in it. I saw someone who was critiquing it, and they said some okay cultural stuff from Phlox, far overshadowed by the truly horrific sludge in between. And yeah, I can agree with that assessment. There are a few interesting moments where we get some insights onto Denobulan culture, and they're very few and far between, with lots of horrific sludge between them.
Did you know that this episode was nominated for a Hugo Award?
I was gonna mention that.
How?
What were the Hugo Award people thinking?
I mean, if it were in 2025, the Hugo Awards have gotten pretty far.
Yeah,
pretty far out. But this was, back in 2000, whatever. And it's just like, this is, wow.
What was the category? Best toenail clipping by an alien race? Or,
John Billingsley, who plays Dr. Phlox, no surprise. He also thought of this as one of his favorite episodes, but that's because he gets a lot of time in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of Phlox. So the whole thing starts off, you get a clear sense of where we're going with the whole decontamination thing. This is one of the bits of Enterprise that I really dislike every time they do it. It is so over-sexualized. Even when it's not an episode about the non-existent sexual tension between Archer and T'Pol. Why do we... I know why we keep doing this, but it's so Roddenberry. It's like Roddenberry is back, and it just drives me crazy that we have to waste screen time doing this nonsense.
Yeah, this also suffers from the serialized, or that's the wrong way to say it. It suffers from the episodic nature, the picaresque nature of the writing at the time, where there's just no continuity between episodes, and so so stuff just seems to come out of the blue. And there's two examples of that in this. Now, in this episode, they tell us that they've got 5 warp plasma injectors. They need at least 4 of them to be functional. And if only 3 of them are functional, they may not even be able to make warp. And one of the 5 is on the blink. And so they need to get a replacement for it. Okay, the whole ship was completely fixed, good as new last episode. That was Dead Stop, where the ship was rebuilt from the ground up. And all of a sudden, with no buildup, it just comes out of nowhere. We've got this major fault that can doom the ship if we don't get a fix in a reasonable amount of time. The other way, the picaresque writing style, and I should explain that term, which I will in a minute. But the other element that comes out of nowhere is Flock says he has observed a mounting amount of tension between Archer and T'Pol, which instead of interpreting as stress or workplace disagreement or personality clashes or cultural clashes, he leaps to, you must have the hots for her. But the thing is, there has been no buildup of tension between Archer and T'Pol. This is, again, just coming out of nowhere. They're making it up because they need to, because there is no continuity from one episode to another. I mentioned the term picaresque. Picaresque is a writing style where you have an initial setup episode, and then subsequently there's no real change until maybe at the end people plot story that was set up in episode 1. This predates television. Things like Don Quixote are picaresque novels where you have an inciting incident and a concluding incident, but the intervening chapters are each basically self-contained with no real plot development.
Right. So, getting to the basic plot of this episode, everything that goes wrong hinges on what Porthos does on this planet of these very touchy people who are on a hair trigger to be offended by everything. This is actually sounds like 2025.
Yeah, and I don't mind that. There are cultural differences even here on Earth, and you can dramatically offend people without realizing it.
Which
I've been in situations like that, where someone did something horrendously offensive, and it's like, why would you do this? And then I discover, oh, you were born a Yankee. Okay, that explains. It wasn't meant personally.
Why do I feel like this was never mind. I won't take offense. No, but the thing that I was going to get at was that why would this captain who's a great diplomat, bring your dog? Like, exactly. A dog is unpredictable.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Porthos deserves some fresh air. Then take him to the next planet. Like, unbelievable. Like that. It's so unbelievable that it's bad writing. You've created this stupid situation in order to create the rest of the story.
It is, as I put it in the summary. Archer is over the top, shouty, pouty, and angry, and that includes about his dog.
Taking Porthos down to that planet is something that should have been in Lower Decks. I mean, that's the kind of plot it is.
They should have mocked it in Lower Decks.
And if what Porthos specifically did, he peed on a sacred tree.
Yeah. Right. Which, even on Earth, that would be
Decks.
Bad. Yeah. Could you imagine, the Prime Minister of England visiting India or something, and bringing his dog along and it peeing on a sacred statue of something? It's like, no, that's just dumb on its face. Like, and they even hang a lantern on it when T'Pol tells Archer, you ignore the consequences of your actions, like by bringing the dog down. So they know that this was a dumb move on Archer's part, but he never admits to it because he's a jerk in this episode for some reason.
Until at the end when he does the apology ritual, which bizarrely involves using a chainsaw to cut up a tree. I can only assume that that's the tree that Porthos peed on.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. I started singing, I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I don't know if anyone remembers that but me, but
Oh
it
yeah.
just cracks me up. But the Archer takes offense at the Cretaceans because he assumes it's their carelessness that led to Porthos getting sick, because they had his genome, so therefore they should have checked it against every possible infectious thing on the planet.
And T'Pol slaps Archer on that too, if I recall correctly. She says, "Why didn't you check their atmosphere?"
Right. And he's he's almost willing to go to war over this. Like if something happens to Porthos, where our diplomatic efforts are over. It's like, dude, bring it down a notch, Captain Bligh. He's completely, like you said, he's completely unreasonable in this episode.
Yeah, and they even make it, and I was a little surprised by this, but they make it towards the end of the episode, as a result of getting on Phlox and Archer getting on each other's nerves, even though Phlox is, very kind and gentlemanly throughout the whole thing. He's very professional. And Archer is this, crazy guy in his sickbay. Archer makes an accusation that Phlox and apparently his whole race are insensitive because they don't have pets, and so they don't understand what Archer is going through. And Phlox says, "Okay, maybe I am insensitive. Maybe you're right about that." And he's just proposed a surgical procedure to help Porthos. And it's a pretty radical one. They're going to give him a chameleon's pituitary gland, and Archer is freaking out about this idea of, "You're doing surgery on my dog, and don't you understand what this means to me?" And Phlox says, "Well, maybe you're right. Maybe I am insensitive. You make the decision. You tell me what we're going to do, but let me know soon." And he walks off. And after that, which is a very professional thing to do, and then Archer concludes, "Okay, we do need to do the surgery." And then he apologizes for flying off the handle. And he says, I'm sorry to Dr. Phlox. And Dr. Phlox says, "Oh, I think you insulted my whole race. And well, then I apologize to you. And I'm sorry for making the slur about your whole race." And Phlox says, "No, and T'Pol told me it was impossible for you to apologize." And that apparently is what convinces Archer to do the apology ceremony.
Right.
And this was out of the blue to me. I mean, I always assumed, and of course I'd seen the episode before, but just based on the writing of this episode, I'd always assumed that he was always going to do the apology ceremony, and they didn't set it up. They didn't have a line of "There's no way I'm doing this" once they have the list of what the apology ceremony involves. So it's just clunky writing the way they set it up. I mean, it's kind of, you could predict, even if you've never seen the episode before, you can predict he's going to do the apology ceremony and that's going to be the resolution.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything to contradict that. And so this was just more inconsistent write-in.
And it's just a series of gags leading up to the entirely predictable conclusion of the episode. Like you said, Father, this is just feels like filler. It doesn't feel like we're doing anything particularly interesting with all of this. We're revealing things about the characters we never knew before, but things that they didn't bother to build. This stupid tension between the captain and this first officer. Right down to the weird dream. Why do we have these weird dreams?
So at one point, after a lot of the sickbay gags, after Phlox has become out of the blue obsessed with the idea that Archer has the hots for T'Pol. Archer then has a pair of dreams about T'Pol. And one of them is they're at a funeral for Porthos, and they're burying Porthos, and Archer and T'Pol are both there, and they start holding hands. The most interesting thing to me, now there's badly written dialogue that's meant to be funny, or monologue meant to be funny, where Phlox is presiding at the funeral.
Right.
And the most interesting thing to me is he's dressed as a priest, which would mean that that priests are still iconic parts of funerals in the time when this is set. So I thought that was interesting and nice, and I liked that. But then I didn't like the badly written monologue they give him to say, which is like meant to be funny, but isn't, like most of the episode. But then they have a replay, a second dream, which is a replay of the initial decon chamber scene. In the initial decon chamber scene, you've got Hoshi, T'Pol, Archer, and Porthos in the decon chamber, and after they're done smearing goo on each other, the Phlox comes on the intercom and says, "Okay, you three can leave, but I need to keep Porthos for a while." And in the dream replay of this scene, when they smear goo on each other, and then Phlox comes on the intercom and lets Hoshi and Porthos leave, but he says, "I'm going to need to keep you two, T'Pol and Archer, a little longer." And then they go to smearing more goo on each other and kissing each other, and it's just really uncomfortable. At least they didn't put them in bed together, but it's still really uncomfortable.
Well, and then they do the whole thing of undressing T'Pol, which
we get a rear view shot of T'Pol, and she is naked from the waist up. And they don't let us see her breasts in this scene, but it's just ick.
Well, and it reminds me of the Carbon Creek thing. Like, Carbon Creek was a good episode, and except they had to insert this sexualization of the actress in, when she's getting undressed behind a sheet or something like that. Like we see her silhouette. Just let her get changed behind the sheet and don't show us the silhouette. Okay, it's early seasons, and this is only the 5th episode of the 2nd season of Enterprise, was totally doing this way over the top, and it's one of the things that kind of made Enterprise not as good as it could have been, because they were trying to recapture the success of 7 of 9 and Voyager, I presume, and they were trying to make T'Pol that a new 7, and it's just unnecessary. It's cheap. Is what it is. It's cheap writing.
And they also, with the cheap writing, immediately after he has this pair of dreams, he admits to Phlox that he is attracted to T'Pol, and then T'Pol shows up with some news from the planet.
Yeah.
And Archer snaps at her, and then he apologizes. He says, "I haven't slept very much, but I'm doing the best I can." And it's like, oh, that is so obvious. And then he says, "When you get back to the bridge, why don't you send me your list?" And it's just so obvious. And
Phlox refers to it as a Polarian slip, like instead of a Freudian slip. Yeah. But presumably named after Michael Piller, the Star Trek producer. But who maybe he made similar slips. I don't know, but but gosh, it was so, I don't know. It's like it's so teen high school TV show angst, fumbling. And it's just like you were mixing, the gags, like chasing the bat in the middle of the night, flying around, which was, funny that, they're chasing the bat, and then Hoshi walks in and she just like grabs it out of the air, which was that was actually kind of a funny gag.
Yeah. This is just one of multiple sight gags that they have in the night in sickbay sequence. Archer, and this moment I thought was okay, and I've seen other people comment on it too, where after he's dropped Porthos off in sickbay, Archer goes back to his quarters and he's getting ready for bed, and he looks over and he sees the pillow that Porthos sleeps on the floor, and it's empty. And that's a nice moment. He then decides to spend the night in sickbay, even though Porthos is sedated and unconscious, and technically this is an inanimate dog prop we're looking at.
Yeah.
And so we get this whole series of things where Phlox is making noise because he's also staying in sickbay to monitor the patient. And Phlox is making noise and it keeps Archer awake. And so he's cutting his toenails, then he feeds his toenails to his animals, then he's scraping his tongue, which is bizarrely long. Then he's feeding the animals again, then the bat escapes, and it's just a whole series of these things that are meant to come across as funny, and they're all just really weak, to my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, was it meant to be like, oh, he's, Archer's unable to get sleep, and therefore he's getting more and more irrational and more revelatory of his true feelings, I guess? Just, yeah.
Then Archer does the worst thing for getting more sleep. He decides to go to the gym and have a run on the treadmill. It's like, dude, that's going to get your adrenaline up. You're going to have a harder time sleeping after that. Just ask Phlox for a sedative.
Yes.
Right.
I like how in that scene, though, T'Pol is already there and she's on another treadmill, and every time, and she and Archer have a conversation, which is kind of testy, and T'Pol keeps upping the speed of her treadmill, and Archer has to up the speed of his treadmill to match it, but she's clearly the one who is not troubled by the advance in speed of the treadmill, and he's getting tireder and tireder as he increases the speed to match hers. And eventually she hops off and starts leaving, and he says, "Where are you going?" And she says, "I obviously can't keep up with you, Captain." Okay, that was funny.
That was a nice dig. The Hoshi gets a good line too. Like, it was kind of a funny when they get the list from the Cretaceans of what the apology needs to be. Hoshi does get the line, "Do we have a chainsaw on board?" Which is a funny line, and they apparently do, which is an odd thing to have on board, but okay.
Well, I guess it comes in handy, not just for apology ceremonies, but if you need to cut down vegetation in an emergency situation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course, you could use a phaser, but they don't have phasers yet.
Yeah, right. Phase pistols. So, back to the Archer's antagonism toward Phlox and his attitude about the transplant idea. I kind of just want to revisit the question. Was Archer's reaction reasonable, given that Phlox's people don't have pets, and so they may not understand the human bond with pets?
Well, it wasn't reasonable in that Phlox has just recommended a course of treatment that Archer needs to take up, or Porthos is going to die.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Archer is throwing a hissy fit about you're not being sensitive enough to my emotions.
Right.
And it's like, okay, I mean, it's a dog, it's not a human, but imagine someone in a situation where their child was about to die if they don't get emergency surgery, and the physician has just said, your child is going to die if we don't do emergency surgery. Is that the moment where a parent rationally throws a hissy fit about you're not being sensitive enough to my emotions?
Right.
Or do you suck it up and get the child the emergency surgery?
Right.
Yeah.
What did you all think of Phlox's story about his family and Denobulan marriage and
Well, it's very different than what we have here. The way, so we're given to understand that Denobulans have polyamorous marriages where every wife has 3 husbands and every husband has 3 wives. So Phlox has 3 wives. Each of the 3 wives has 2 other husbands. So you've got a group of basically 18 people that are all married to each other. And they have 31 kids between them, 5 of which are Phlox's own personal children that he's fathered. And it's described as being something their species is perfectly happy with. It's not how it would work for humans, but it works for them. And so I think it's interesting to hear about that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting science fiction possibility. It definitely would not work in a human context.
I was trying to figure out where he got 720 relationships, 42 of which have romantic possibilities, because you said there's 18 people.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to sit down and do some math, and frankly, I wasn't interested enough in this episode to do that.
Well, I'm curious if the writers actually did any math or just pulled numbers out of thin air, because it felt like it. And then he talked about his kids, 2 daughters that are doctors like him, and 2 sons that he's estranged from, which I thought was interesting. But do we ever get more about Phlox's family?
Yeah. There's a future episode where one of his wives comes on board.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because she has a thing for Tucker, or it seems that she does, or something, right? In that episode?
Mm-hmm.
Or no? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Okay. So, we get the lumberjack apology, which is very uncomfortable. At the end, though, was, when T'Pol and Archer have this coded conversation, was T'Pol hinting that she's attracted to Archer?
Oh yeah, she was.
So.
Yeah,
Okay.
Initially it's not clear, but they're having this awkward conversation at the end where he's trying to apologize to her for tension that we've never seen, but that has apparently existed between the two of them.
Right.
And and she makes a comment about, well, personal tension is to be expected when people are working in close quarters. And then he adds, especially if they're of opposite sexes.
Right.
And then she adds, well, then it's a good thing that we're in positions that don't allow us to become attracted to each other, which is a clear sign she knows exactly what is going on.
Right.
And frankly, that she feels it as well. But she's not going to deviate from her assigned role as first officer.
She's helping to reinforce boundaries at that point, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently it she doesn't have a problem with, other officers like Tucker.
Well,
later.
other officers are not her superior officer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Although as first officer, she'd be their superior, wouldn't?
I don't know that she's part of I don't know. My understanding was that Trip was always really the number 2 on the ship. And I mean that he was the first officer, because originally there wasn't a role for first officer. T'Pol was kind of shoved in here by the Vulcans. And so I think the relationship between Trip and T'Pol is a little different in terms of chain of command. She may be his superior in some circumstances, but not others.
Right. I mean, sort of technically she would outrank him in certain circumstances, but I think they're of similar rank.
Yeah.
And he's head of engineering.
And by the way, before people write in, I'm not sure that it's 18 people in this Denobulan relationship, but like I said, I'm not motivated enough to sit down and actually do the math on paper.
Do the math. Right. Okay. Anything else, Father, on this one?
Nothing else from my notes.
Jimmy, anything else?
One thing. After all the buildup about is Archer attracted to T'Pol or not, which is sort of the main emotional focus of the episode. I mean, Porthos is the inciting thing, but the peak of when we find out what's really bugging Archer is it's not just his dog, it's that he's got the hots for his first officer and he can't do anything about it. In the sequence, Phlox is really unprofessional in his questioning of Archer. He notes that, and this is again the slimmest of evidence, but he notes that T'Pol's opinion matters to Archer. And that's what sets him off on You Must Have the Hots for her. And he then asks, how long has it been since you were intimate with a woman? And it's like, whoa, that is not an appropriate question. And then he tells Archer a little bit later, sexual tension, Captain, there's no doubt in my mind, which is, again, okay, you've just called your captain a liar. And also, this is a ridiculous. I mean, who did you study psychology from? Sigmund Freud? That is so 19th century of you, Dr. Phlox. But then the resolution is just ridiculous because Archer asks a sensible question. Well, what am I supposed to do about it? I mean, should I just ignore it or should I say something to her? And Phlox sensibly says, at least don't talk to her about it. I don't see any way that's not going to cause problems. But he also says, don't ignore it. He says, simply be aware of it. And that's our resolution for the emotional centerpiece of this episode.
Yeah.
And it's also bad writing for the future because everyone who's seen this episode is going to simply be aware of it and be looking for it in the future, and it ain't going to be there.
Never again. Never again. Yeah. And of course, the thing with Phlox is he falls for the old myth that somehow men cannot live without intimate relations with a woman, which is,
nonsense.
And I feel like I don't think Archer was thinking about sexual attention with T'Pol until Phlox brings it up repeatedly. Yeah. And that's when he has the dream. And I'm like, Dr. Phlox, I think maybe you put that suggestion in Archer's mind. Again, not very professional of you to do that. Yeah. It just, yeah. Let's put this one to bed. we have done it. We will never talk about it again. And that means we do want to now take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Trek, including Andrew E., Christopher V., Natalie B., Cesar T., and Ann S. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us this time. What did you think of A Night in Sickbay? Did you like it like the Hugo Award nominators did? Or were you more like us? You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek, our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, send an email to trek@sqpn.com, visit our Discord community at sqpn.com/discord, or watch The Secrets of Star Trek on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia and leave a comment there. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the original series episode, Cat's Paw. Until then, Father Jason Tyler, thank you for joining me and sharing The Secrets of Star Trek.
Thanks, Dom.
And Jimmy Akin, thank you as well.
Thank you, Dom, but you did order us to watch this episode, so live long and prosper if you can.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, and this actually applies to that, you're once again ignoring the consequences of your actions.